Okay, so this is going to be a bit quick. I mean, quick for me is like 20, 30 minutes. So anyway, so the question that I'll be answering right now in this video is I was asked to review branches and what their scope are. Now, I'm not going to comment on the scope aspect because, as you all saw in my previous, asking whether X is worth it is a dumb question. You all know. I've answered that question already, so I'm not going to tackle that here. What I will be doing is reviewing. So when I say review here, these are my general comments on how I feel. This is my personal opinion. Obviously, I may be obviously, mechatronics and robotics is my particular field of expertise, and I've been fortunate enough to read a lot on other fields of engineering and other fields in general. But be advised that I am not an electrical engineer, I'm not a computer science engineer, so my perspective may be biased. Maybe because I'm not as say entrenched in AI discourse, I might not know things about AI that are happening right now, which may lead me to say something wrong. So again, pinch of salt, grain of salt, whatever you want to do. So let's start with the biggest elephant in the room, which for most Indians is computer science. Right now, at least here, staying in the US, I know for a fact that OpenAI, all these other AI companies, the stuff that they're trying to put out is, I mean, I won't be so quick as to use the word dystopian, but it is concerning because unfortunately a lot of like the computer science or IT software field in India is very cookie cutter service based, throw more people at a problem until it works sort of model. Like that is basically our model is that, which may not work as AI becomes more and more proficient at doing the sort of stuff that Infosys or the which companies would have probably hired a 3 to 4 LPA person to do. Now I understand that, at least my understanding is that, at least this is in the context of Manipal. So if anyone else is watching this video, then just be advised that I'm talking in the context of Manipal specifically. But whoever is going to Manipal, I would say, bhai, if you're taking anything else lower than 6 LPA, then brother, that is slavery. Compared to how much you would be learning at Manipal and whatever. But anyway, that's beside the point. I would say that AI is definitely going to change a lot of things, and I'm referring to computer science specifically. But then this notion of AI is going to cook us all is going to be a stance that I hold for all the other fields in general, in my own field per se. So just like I'm going to assume that this is going to be the general trend, and then I will do that. Yeah, I'll say more things on top of that. I'll layer more opinions on top of that. So computer science. पहले तो, as with all things, it is one of the more fast changing fields simply because it's easy to iterate on things that aren't necessarily physical. Like it's all abstract, it's all code, right? And in my opinion, this means that if you want to focus on something, you need to do it early, you need to do it fast. If you know that you want to do computer science, know in the sense that you've thought about it, you know that you want to do CS because you like doing it, you probably want to do something in the space of AI or something, even if it's just typical web dev or something. Figure out what it is that you want to do quick and start hitting and hit the ground running from the very first month. Don't wait until the second year to figure out ki, oh, I did these 2 years or whatever and this thing, because like I mentioned, it is CS is, I would say, the fastest changing field right now. But fortunately, it's also the easiest field to get in right now. Like right now, let's say, I mean, right now I graduated, but let's say I decide to myself कि 3 महीने में I want to get into some sort of AI company. दिन रात बैठ के I can do that. Because there are videos online, there are roadmaps online, there are how to do GSOC things. Basically, the entire CS field has been JE-fied, roadmap-fied, commoditized to know it, which is, I have my own opinions on that, but it, I can do things. I just know I know what needs to be done. I just have to do it, and effort is the only bottleneck here. So, with that in mind, figure out those niches and be very clear on what you want to do, how you want to do it, and start doing it. Do it immediately. Like don't even think कि क्या करना है वगैरह. Start building. Just keep on building. This is, I'm saying this especially for computer science. ठीक है. When I say computer science, this applies to all the sub branches of computer science: data science, AI. I mean MNC, fair, okay, that's a bit of a different thing. Uh, Typical IT, typical CC, typical computer science core. You know, figure out the specific specializations or niches that you are interested in. Get started now. That is what I would say for computer science. Basically, like, get started now, get started early, find your niche properly, and start building quick. Work hard, because it's a saturated market. AI is going to mess y'all up specifically a lot more than the others. So be advised. Now, moving on from computer science, I'll probably take a bit of a detour to address computer science related fields. So I know MNC, or like math and computing, for those that people that are not familiar with the term. Uh, I would say, math and computing, fintech, a lot of what I said out computer science applies to you guys as well, you folks as well. But there is a very heavy math component to these aspects, at least from what I know of how these fields work and what they do and stuff. So I do agree that so over here the bottleneck is more so your skill and willingness to bear with the math more than the computer science stuff. Because again, think HFTs, think your core computational mathematics. This is like stuff that makes your AI model stick or makes your statistical things stick. This requires core math competency, and this is something you will have to tolerate somehow. If you're not good at math, then good luck. Like, this is like the thing with math, no? Ki, uh, unlike a lot of fields, math has a lot of hard walls, and says that you need to have that innate, you could say, mathematical reasoning trained in you, or natural talent for it. Solving a bunch of JE sums is not going to cut it. Sorry, it's not going to cut it for you. So that's my stance on like the CS and adjacent branches. Electrical. Now, I say electrical to mean ECE, electrical and sorry. For India, it's electronics and communication engineering, electronics and electrical engineering, electronics and instrumentation engineering, VLSI, and basically, that entire field. Because like here in the States, it's electrical and computer engineering, which is a bit of a different categorization. So just wanted to make that clear. Don't take this thing if just because CS nahi mila. Trust me, there are better ways to get. If you really want to do CS no matter what, like I mentioned, there are better ways to do it. There are different ways to do it, which do not involve you suffering for 4 years in an electrical branch, simply because it is called one of the most difficult branches for a reason. Electrical engineering is not easy. It is hard. It is hard. And I'm saying this as someone that has had to do a bunch of electronics related research over here, like for my masters, I had to do something related to like sensors and whatever. And it is hard. It is hard. I know people that have done triple E, they somehow survived, and you have to be not only smart, वो अलग बात है, but then you also have to be really hardworking. You need to have a genuine interest in doing the stuff that is taught to you in electrical engineering. नहीं तो that's not going to cut it. Which is something that people forget because they see ECE and they see people getting, let's say, CS jobs in ECE, and they think to themselves, okay, why I'll take ECE and then get something. Again, if you want to get a software engineering job, there are better ways than taking ECE and AAA or whatever, because you're just, I mean, why you are unnecessarily taking the triple ka dildo up your ass, basically, is what I want to say. Just only take electrical engineering if you know you want to do it, because like I mentioned, it's very difficult, and there are certain, again, I'm going to repeat the same thing like I did with the CS people. uh, Over here, fortunately, electrical is a bit quote unquote slower, in the sense that obviously, you're dealing with materials and very dangerous things like your power grids, etc, etc. But yes, you do have to put in the work, but in a different way. In CS, you have to just keep building. In triple, you have to keep like studying and reading and all that stuff, because it's a hard field. It is a technically hard field. So don't, once again, don't slack up for electrical specifically. And again, I kind of glossed over the job stuff, but like I mentioned, like my stance on the thing is, there is scope everywhere. It's just you have to carve out your own niche and figure out how that works. With CS, it might be a bit hard because it's a saturated market. With electrical, it may be a bit easier, but being a core field, be advised that you will have to put in the work for it. You'll have to play the long game essentially. You maybe you may not get like a swanking 30 lpa 40 lpa job right out the gate. Maybe you'll get something 8 to 9 lpa, like graduate engineering trainee, or GTE, graduate trainee engineer, is the usual um, industry standard across the industry, which typically ranges between a 6 to 12 LPA package. Like your entry level, core job is GET. You'll see that when you look at placement and stuff. So uh, it is okay. You people in you package inflation, all that stuff, it skews people's expectation of what how much money 12 lakhs per annum is. Depending on where you live, it can be a lot, and it can also be not as much depending on where you live. Like I mentioned, there's tons of other factors that I'm not going to cover here, which with the bottom line that I want to say is, don't just blindly run behind packages. Run behind what run behind what it is that you want to do with the degree you're getting, and especially so in the case of electrical, because it is hard and you will have to commit to it. You have to play the long game with the core fields, especially electrical. But there are companies that want uh, competent electrical engineers, and if you're good at that stuff, you will naturally find yourself getting very good jobs in that sort of sector, simply because you need to be skilled to even succeed in electrical, like I mentioned. I mean, I know I'm repeating this again and again, but please, I've seen people absolutely get destroyed by electrical engineering. Just for your own sanity, please don't. Okay, now uh, mechanical engineering, mechanical manufacturing, industrial, the whole manufacturing ecosystem के related जो है, I would probably put mechatronics and CPS in this camp as well, although I would rather want to address them in a different category, which I'll elaborate on later. Now, mechanical has had a bit of a bad rep, specifically in India, simply because, I mean, everyone likes to do CS, but I would argue that you still require competent mech engineers. It's the same thing with electrical, just that you may not have a lot of let's say technical difficulty, but there may be physical difficulty, because you have to do the machine shops up, because you work the lathes, you have to work the CNCs, you have to work the bench drills. I've done that for, so I know how tiring it can be. You need to have that sort of knowledge if you really want to become a competent mechanical engineer, which is valid, because how will you design something that you don't know how to manufacture, or how you manufacture something that some weird ass design that you don't even know how it was even designed. So these are little things that, so practical experience in my opinion is very important for any mechanical manufacturing engineer, which in my opinion can be easy to get. It's just you have to figure out where to look. Even if you go to a random workshop and you offer to help out and you somehow get it, I would say that is valid enough experience, because again, you fall in the same core camp as the electrical guys when it comes to GT placements. It's just that how you do things may be different, because let's say electrical guys may have to do stuff like setting up your electrical panels, or automation based connections and stuff. You may have to design, you may have to maybe actually fabricate or ensure the fabrication sort of thing. So more sort of field, and having practical experience will help you survive that industrial environment. And again, you have to play the long game. Core is a long game. Anything that is not tech is going to be a long game. But contrary to tech, where you do have higher volatility, but then you also get higher packages, like the ceilings much higher as a result. In core, I would say that you do get more stability, but you have to play the long game, and then you get good money. So again, it's trade-offs. So up here. Uh, so that's mechanical manufacturing. Like I said before, it's the same problems as kind of the same problem as electrical, but it's more physically demanding. Um, People tend to give it a bad rep because, again, it's perceived to have a bad rep. But again, like my opinion is, no thing is good or bad. It's just different. You have to find out your own niche, and there are, at least from the number of industries or people that I've talked to, the number of industries that I myself have worked in, like the different, I've worked in corporates, I've worked in MSMEs, I've worked in startups, I've worked metros, I've worked in like bloody villages and stuff. So I've seen stuff. So there is scope. If you wish to create it, you just have to find that scope somehow. Now, when it now comes, I'd say not so popular branches, stuff like civil, stuff like chemical. I oh actually before that I can actually talk about life sciences. Life sciences, yani biotech, biomed, and all that stuff. Now, this is a tricky question to answer because a lot of the people who take biotech and biomed usually are NEET K rejects, like people who didn't get into medical school here in India and want to do something bio related. Now, be advised that again, biotech and biomed are again, just as with the medical field, these are a, when I say you play the long game, this is especially true for the life sciences because people who know how the medical, I would say industry, people who know how the medical field works will know that you have to commit a lot of time barely kind of surviving, and then all of a sudden you start doing very well for yourself. Like you have as a doctor, you have to do MBBS, you have to do a residency, you have to do a specialization, etc., etc., for okay-ish money. And then all of a sudden, as a good doctor, as a specialist doctor, you start earning a lot. So it's a big jump. So you may be expected to live a similar life as a biotech or biomed engineer. But fortunately, since I mean, I don't say fortunately, wrong word to use. But since you are an engineer, you may have a slightly different path. But that's the thing with life sciences. Like you have to grind a little bit, it is also expected. It's a common expectation that you take life science related bachelor's degrees for as a springboard towards higher education. Could be here in India, maybe do your MTech or PhD in a related field like pharma, microbio, um, like physio engineering or rehabilitation engineering, etc., etc. Or you do this so that you can get access to a pre-med degree in the US and do medical school there. So positive. So like the life science is a bit of a mixed bag, which is why I don't necessarily want to talk a lot simply because I mean I'm not a biomed guy. I'm not a life sciences guy. I'm not necessarily from the medical field. So I know there are things that I possibly don't even know about. At least this is from my experience talking with people who are in that sort of line. So uh, there is a long way to go for life science people. India may things are kind of changing. Like I know the government has been doing a lot of biotech related initiatives. Manipal specifically has the bio incubator, the GOTK bio incubator. Uh, but again, be advised, if don't take this just because again kuch aur nahi mila. Take a thing because you like it. In the case of life sciences, you need to be very clear that this is the type of path that you'll be taking, because if you take biomed, you are essentially locked out of the other types of engineering. I would argue that me being a, let's say, mechatronics etc engineer, robotics engineer, I might find it a little easier to get into life sciences than getting out of life sciences, because once you're in, you're in. It's that sort of thing, because anatomy, biology, and all that sort of stuff you have to learn, which kind of takes you away from the typical engineering applications and stuff. So that's life sciences. Now as for civil, chemical, ऐसे type के जो branches रहते हैं, which I would rather classify in the fringe branches. Now the issue with these branches is again, uh, this is the same issue as life sciences but different, because over here, at least in the life sciences, it's mostly you work in private organizations all the time. In these fringe branches, it's exclusively almost PSUs, government related stuff. People do this because they want to take UPSC, etc., etc. So my recommendation is, if you want to do that anyway, UPSC वो सब करना ही है, then why wasting so much money on Manipal? Take some random college, save that money, invest it somewhere, and use that time to study for the UPSC if you know you want to do that, right? And if you uh, don't want to do the UPSC and you want to actually make a career in this, then again, one issue with these fringe branches is that specifically with French branches is that compared to the traditional branches, CS definitely has serious roadmapification. I mean, this is something that people who know me know that I despise. Like severe commoditized roadmapification of CS is happening. So, but there are roadmaps. Electrical, mechanical, में there aren't a lot, but it is commonly known that you do this, you do that, etc., etc. Civil में unfortunately या civil में या chemical में it is just कि ठीक है भाई you do this and you go into let's say petroleum or you go into some sort of building, but there's no clear path to getting into other careers, or there's not a lot of talk about other fields such as sustainable development, or what's it called, eco-friendly buildings, or material eco-friendly materials, or like all these sorts of things, or bio-inspired materials or bio-inspired engineering, so these sorts of things which require these sorts of engineers, but is not necessarily talked about because one, either people don't know about it, or two, there's a perception कि civil engineering यानी you'll become a what mazdoor or whatever, people talk shit, uh, but that's the general perception of fringe branches. So again, in this case you have to be very active in networking with people for civil and these specifically. So once, if you know you want to do civil and you know you want to do Leo, that sort of thing, similar to CS. In the case of CS, the field was very saturated. In the case of civil field, में कुछ कोई है ही नहीं. In the sense that you don't even know where to look. So you have to constantly be in touch with people in that sort of field. Be on the lookout for new opportunities. Um, so you have to keep looking instead of keep building. It's most of connections and networking and that sort of thing, so that you understand ki, what do I do now to ensure that I have a very fulfilling career in this particular field later on in life. So those are the fringe branches. And related to that are what I would call the esoteric, or I mean, I wouldn't say esoteric, or the, I wouldn't say future branches because that's a very bad terminology to use, because we are not necessarily saying that these branches are the future, just so these are the new branches, the new kids on the block. Things like mechatronics, cyber physical systems. I mean, VLSI maybe kind of, I'm just saying in the sense of the new branch. So we see uh, branches that people may not know even exist but are new, to the extent that maybe this is probably even the first batch or like the second batch, or maybe अभी जाके एक placement round हुआ है उनका, or very different, very niche, very esoteric, very hybrid sorts of fields. So the issue with these sorts of fields is you have to do everything yourself. Like, I can't even give any advice here because everything is literally on a case by case basis, simply because the types of things that we deal with are so fringe, at least considering the Indian perception, that people may not even know what you're doing. Like in my case, when I took mechatronics, I had to first tell people what mechatronics even is. Abhi, then this was back in 2018. Now around what, 6 or 7 years later, like almost a decade later, now people are starting to fully understand robotics in the mainstream, and that's post COVID, post all the automation boom, post Make in India, so on and so forth. You might see similar um, patterns arise with things like CPS, things like I don't know, AI robotics, or like maybe there's a Biotech in robotics that pops up for some reason. So things like that, fringe branches, very niche branches. So you have to chart your own path. However, what I can guarantee is you will find more people that took this branch because they wanted to do that branch. So there you might find a higher percentage of self-driven individuals that are comfortable with charting their own path. And if you at least in my case, when I joined Manipal Mechatronics, a lot of my own batchmates were legacy engineers, in the sense that I'm a first generation engineer because my parents aren't necessarily in that field, but a lot of my classmates were from that field. Like their parents worked in mechatronics, or they knew people who worked in mechatronics, so they kind of had a good idea of what to do. So that gave me a good idea of what are the things that exist outside, because I had to network with them to understand ki, bhai, what is going on in the field of mechatronics. Like, what do people think about when they say mechatronics job wise? And I was driven by my own personal interest in robotics and automation, all that jazz. So you will have to be very self-driven. You can't necessarily rely on people telling you what to do, कि ये करो वो करो. Like इधर road mapfication है ही नहीं. At least in the fringe branches, you can ask people for roadmaps. But in the case of these types of branches, शायद रहेगा ही भी नहीं, maybe because this is probably the first time the branch is even appearing on the Indian scene, even abroad. Like even abroad, mechatronics as a thing is like people kind of know what to do, but then again, it's a very new field. It's not necessarily mature the way electrical engineering or mechanical engineering is. So be advised that if you take such sorts of fields, be very clear on why you want to take these fields, because again, in the French branch, you are on your own. Don't regret any decision that you make, and just power ahead in what you do. So this is what I would. This is, I mean, this kind of turned into a what you should do if you take every branch sort of video. But all in all, what I would say is, regardless of what branch it is that you want to take, focus on things such as focus on things that you as the individual will gain. And I'm not talking about things like acha placement milega, acha ye milega. Those are things that can change year on year. You know, pata chala agle saal AGI released, and like if all of engineering is literally obsolete for some reason. Like we have no idea how the world is going to change tomorrow. Pata chala for some reason World War 3 starts now. What use is I mean, what uses any engineer maybe? What uses say uh, like civil engineering if we discover some sort of new material that makes civil engineering obsolete? So or like I mentioned, if AGI gets released, then the entire field of computer science is obsolete. Like why do we need you guys now? Like people doing web dev or stuff when we already have AI that is doing the sort of work for us. So things like that. So don't think about extrinsic factors such as मुझे ये job मिलेगा, like मुझे इतना पैसा मिलेगा, because like I mentioned, the market is a market. It's going to change every week, every month, every year. There's no way we can protect ourselves against it. Um, all that we can do is we need to become competent engineers. We need to become competent in what we do, period. And those are skills that you have to cultivate yourself. You have to put in the time yourself, regardless of the branch that you take. Use the internet as much as you can, talk to people as much as you can, use your local facilities, talk to your faculty, talk to your seniors, talk to your juniors. I mean, there are things that people that are new to the program, their perspectives that they might bring that you may not have had even access to. Like for example, um, I had no idea that there are tons of things that you could do while in high school. Like there are different Olympiads, there are different competitions, there are different workshops. Like I had no idea about all that. I didn't even know what a bloody robot was until I came to my first year. And then there are my Mechatronics juniors are already doing robotics like line follows and stuff before they even came to Manipal. So that is useful information, because again, new information, new blood, new enthusiasm. So you get to know all that stuff. Similarly, seniors, they've been in the field a while. They probably have seen how things are played out, so they may have their own perspectives on how things are changing. Because they might notice trends and they might be able to better advise you on set trends. Maybe as like the way I'm doing this, I'm noticing some trends over here, drawing on my own experience going through engineering and whatnot. It's been 6 or 7 years since, no, not in 6 years. Yeah, it's been like 7 or something years since I first entered Manipal to do my BTech, and now I'm graduated with my MS. So a lot of stuff has happened during that time, which everyone knows. So I'm commenting on those things from my perspective. Someone might have a different perspective. So keep on talking to other people, keep on gathering your own knowledge from the internet and other things, and just start doing stuff. Don't wait around thinking ki, oh, I will learn this and that, then I'll start doing it, bro. Just start building, bro. I am not even kidding. Just start doing stuff. If you see something that you're interested in, just start doing it. You have a lot of tools that will make your learning journey easier. Just start doing it. So yeah, that's it.